Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar series, our endeavor to impart techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is Next Generation Security Intelligence. Our guest speaker today is Mr. Darshan Doni, Staff Software Engineer at IBM India Software Labs. Darshan has an experience of 8 plus years in product support and testing at IBM. He initially worked with Tivoli Security and then moved to business intelligence. Interestingly, his current job role is a mixture of both security and intelligence. He now works for QRadar, an SIEM product placed in the Gartner Leaders Quadrant. So without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Mr. Darshan.
Thank you, Mohini. Thank you so much for the grand introduction. So my name is Darshan. I will be covering the topic Next Generation Security Intelligence. I have a slide deck of around 18 slides, and I intend to finish in 45 minutes and then open up for question and answers. Security intelligence, I would want to start with some basic concepts. So what is security intelligence? What are SIEMs? I do understand there are SIEM experts in the call, but just for the general benefit, I'll just explain it in brief. So security intelligence is are tools which allow you to monitor your infrastructure against security threats. So if you have a firewall, if you have a proxy, if you have various databases, and if you want to monitor who is accessing them, why they are accessing it, and exactly what is happening inside your networks. Is there a virus being that is spreading? Is there malware that is spreading across? So on and so forth. So for this particular task, the softwares that are used are called SIEMs. It's security information and event management softwares. So that is just a tool. Security intelligence is a much more wider area which includes other tools as well. But we will be concentrating on the QRadar SIEM today in this topic. The security intelligence topic is very broad, as I said. So it will be humanly impossible to cover it in a short span of time. But our main agenda today is not just SIEM, but how the next generation security intelligence will help us, and what newer kind of threats are being presented to network administrators today, to CSOs, that is Chief Security Officers or CTOs. How this particular new product will help them get a better understanding of what is happening, and it will give them better information to deal with those modern threats. So who is attacking our networks? Right. So initially, when computing started, there were typically a broad kind of attackers that are available. So the broad category also has had two means or methods to attack a certain organization or a certain person. There are a few newbie type of attackers who will use off-the-shelf tools and techniques, and there are other sophisticated attackers or hackers, if you want to call them that way, who will generally be involved in a cyber war kind of scenario. So off-the-shelf tools and techniques, when they are being used, they are typically used indiscriminately. I mean, they are not targeted at anyone. It's very broad. So if they'll do a general port scan on all public IP addresses, find if there are any open ports, try to get in using those ports. So it's indiscriminate. There is really no goal or no motive for their actions. They typically lack sophisticated technical skills. They used to use a tool chest of exploit and malware kits. So if they find out that their friends have a very cool botnet, they will get that botnet modified to some extent and then again push it out to the network. and then malware will open up backdoors for them. So typically it was those college student kind of guys who use this. Of course, there were some professionals too, but this was more often to look cool rather than any purpose. They had developed a set of botnet builders which could easily allow you to create botnets. They were financially motivated, but as I said, they were indiscriminate. So they had no one particular financial institution or one particular person as a target. There were other nuisance makers like spam and DOS. So they would typically target a few email users randomly and spam them, or they would just get onto a public-facing web server and try to run a DOS attack on it. So these are the typical broad off-the-shelf users. Sophisticated ones were funded by countries, and they involved cyber war, but again, that the scale was not that high. Nowadays, they are more targeted in nature. They have matured technologically also, and the main thing is they are finding enough points to attack. In the sense, the automation that we have in our networks today is so high that they are finding enough entry points to cause harm. So what are these? So even now there are off-the-shelf tools and techniques which are used for financially motivated targeted hacks, DDoS attacks, and by groups like Anonymous and LulzSec. The sophisticated ones, the ones that we are very concerned about, are the ones that are targeted and sophisticated at the same time. One of those is advanced persistent threats. Then they are the main thing about these is they are organized and they are state-sponsored. They are discovering new vulnerabilities all the time, and they have unprecedented attack techniques. You would have heard about the recent attack on Iranian nuclear reactors. That was an advanced persistent threat, and it was unprecedented. Nobody had expected someone to plant a worm into Iran's nuclear reactors. They couldn't see it coming, right? Moving on to the next slide. Advanced persistent threats. They are different. You know, how are they different? First of all, we'll go one by one. So they are advanced. How are they advanced? They are exploiting zero-day vulnerability. So what's a zero-day vulnerability? Is something which comes up as, I mean, you don't know about it, and before you know about it, they have found a new one. So it's called zero-day in the sense that it's unknown right now. It's unknown to most of the world, and they are exploiting it. So if somebody knows about a vulnerability in the US, it takes time to propagate to say Asia Pacific. So for Asia Pacific, it's still not a known vulnerability. So they are exploiting those. They are advanced. They are using advanced custom malware, which is not detected by antivirus products, and they are coordinated and well-researched attacks using multiple entry points. They are not going to attack you at one point. They are going to attack an individual or a company at multiple points. So if you have a public IP, you are getting attacked there. They might send phishing attacks to your employees, asking them to click on links which they don't know. They can send spams to your mail servers, and these can all happen at the same time. They are very persistent. Attacks last for months or years. The Iranian attack, I think it was lurking in there for 6 months before it actually started doing what it was supposed to do. So it won't do anything suspicious for you to even detect it. They are dedicated to the target. They will get in. So the one that was built for Iran was specifically written for Siemens automation controllers. So it was specifically written for that. The threat, it's because it's targeted at specific individuals and groups within an organization, and they are aimed at compromising confidential information, but also to cause a hindrance to your agenda. So if you want to say maybe if you are declaring your shares IPO the next day, and it's a very crucial moment for you, they will strike at that particular instance itself. And you know what happens when the media gets news that some organization has been hacked. It's a total loss of brand value. They are not random attacks, as I said. They are going to get you, and they are going to do a concerted attack until you bend. Right? So this responding is a bit different too, as we will see. So we take a watch, wait, plan strategy. You don't typically respond as you would do in typical antivirus or botnet attacks. Moving to the next slide. So how can security intelligence help in this? I mean, this is a very gloomy scenario. They are out to get you, but can we stop them? So how security intelligence can help you with in that regard? So security intelligence will allow you to continuously monitor all activity and correlate it in real time. I cannot exaggerate this further. It's the most important thing that can protect you against these threats, because monitoring all activity and correlating it real time will give you that vision, which will help you to understand that you are slowly being attacked by an advanced persistent threat. As I said, they are not going to attack you in one way. They are going to attack in multiple ways. They are not going to attack right now. They might wait for you and then attack. Right? So this is a very important capability. Apart from that, visibility into those unauthorized or anomalous activities. So they found out that in the US, there was a thermostat which was communicating with an IP address in China. Now, I don't understand why a thermostat of this country, first of all, I don't understand why would someone put a thermostat on the network, but they did. And the thermostat in that country was communicating with an IP in China. Totally not necessary. Sometimes you can see an unusual Windows service. Sometimes you can see a spike in the download volume from your SharePoint server or your file server. So why is that happening? There are a high number of failed logins to critical servers, and then there is suddenly a successful login. Why is that happening? Is it a brute force password attack? Is there a configuration change suddenly on your firewall when there was none that was approved? Was there inappropriate use of protocols? Are some of your employees using P2P and inadvertently are they downloading a virus? Then was a new service initiated on a known host and without an approval? So again, it's a breach. So security intelligence can help you find out all this, right? So just to the basics. So when there is an exploit, there is a certain timeline that happens it happens in. So most of you who have studied security know this. So there is a vulnerability, and then somebody uses that vulnerability and causes an exploit, and then what we can try is to remediate that in some way. So from vulnerability to exploit, it's called the pre-exploit phase, and from exploit to remediation, it's called the post-exploit phase. So pre-exploit, all you can do is predict and prevent, right? And in post-exploit, what you do is react and remediate. So as you can see, under prediction and prevention, there are multiple areas. So risk management, vulnerability management, configuration monitoring, patch management, compliance management, so on and so forth. But after the exploit, there are other things which come into picture: SIEMs, log management, host intrusion prevention systems, database activity monitoring, data loss prevention, and so on. So where we are concentrating today is on the reaction and remediation phase. We will be looking at a product called QRadar, which is an SIEM, which is the first item under reaction and remediation, right? Log management systems are typically a subset of SIEMs, but here they have been mentioned separately because there are customers, there are organizations which use log management even now. All right. So if you look at the timeline above, you will see we are moving from what are the external and internal threats? Are we configured? Then as soon as the exploit is happening, they will switch the question to what is happening right now, and then to what was the impact. So we are looking at what is happening right now and what was the impact. So that's what QRadar is good at. For the risk management part, we have another product called QRadar Risk Manager, right? So What is what are the typical characteristics of the next generation SIEM? So we have studied this, and since we are in the leaders quadrant for Gartner, I assume we are right. So what are the three capabilities? We have found out that SIEMs are good if they are intelligent, of course. They are automated and they are integrated. So intelligent, so what we provide in QRadar is we have an intelligent offense management system. We have layer 7 application visibility. I'll come to each of those points. We'll cover them in detail in the later part of the slides. We are identifying many critical anomalies, right? Automated, we are easy to deploy, or rapid time to value and operational efficiency. Integrated, we have a distributed architecture like all typical enterprise software have. We are highly scalable. We have customers with who have 2 million events per second. We have customers right now who are in that kind of data analysis. And we analyze logs, flows, assets, and more. So just before we move in, I would like to explain two terms, that is offense and flow, just so that we are clear on those concepts. A flow is typically a QRadar concept. There are other flow engines. Also, what is a flow? A flow is where a QRadar appliance is sniffing the network. So it will sniff the network for connections between multiple hosts, and it will store that information for analysis. An offense is when something that is not supposed to happen happens. We call it an offense. So if somebody is accessing an FTP machine on a weekend when there should be no one in office, then we fire out an offense, right? So just keep that in mind as we move ahead. So this was how a typical first generation SIEM looked like. I hope you are seeing 4 black blocks over there. So we are right now, if you look at the right corner bottom, you will see that we are covering the intelligent aspect right now. How is QRadar, how are we trying to bring in intelligence into this SIEM? So the first generation SIEM typically had these only server hosts and security systems logging into that particular software. It's sending the logs to that particular software, sending events to the SIEM. The SIEM then did a statistical or rules-based correlation, and that's it. So, and we had stopped it at just that. So how does next generation SIEM look? So if you look with those black boxes, typical suspected incidents just flowed through. We couldn't detect them, right? So what we did was we added a behavior and context to this information. So what did we do? We added asset discovery and we added active and passive vulnerability assessments, right? If you look at the left-hand side, our source of information has increased. So we now also look at user activity. We look at application activity. We look at network activity, which is what flows are. We look at virtual machine activity, right? We have filtered that through our active and passive vulnerability assessments. We also have now attacker profile, IP location. We also integrate with the IBM X-Force. So before the zero-day vulnerability spreads across, we have an idea about the external threats, right? We also look at network and application behavior. We also look at users in particular. If we find out, for example, if we find out certain user who is continuously trying to log in, as I said, if it's a password attack, so we are able to find out the identity of the user, who did it, and from where he did it, right? The end result of this particular next generation SIEM processing, when we add behavior and context, is what we call as an offense. So using all of this, so if you look at the bottom part of the screen, so we use extensive is exceptionally accurate and actionable insight, right? Moving on to the next slide. So first generation SIEM, looking at it from a full impact analysis point of view, it was only during attack, right? So what did it do? It said, what is the attack? where is it happening, what rules are firing, and what targets are involved. So it was a pretty simple kind of software, right? So what did we add here? We also look at before attack and after attack capabilities. So when we saw that previously we were only post-exploit, though we are still strongly post-exploit, we are somewhere moving to the pre-exploit phase as well. So we are able to look at who is the attacker, where has he been before, what did he do before, and are my assets prepared? Are these questions first generation SIEMs never answered. We are also looking at forensics. So if an attack has happened and we want to remediate the system, what do we do? So was the attack, was it successful? Where has the attack moved to? Did it move from one data center to another data center? From one IP to another IP? What was stolen? Did the user, were some files uploaded? And where is my evidence? So how do I, if I have to tomorrow, do some legal inquiry, so is there evidence that, okay, this particular user's, this IP was actually had uploaded, the file was uploaded to this certain IP, and then it was accessed by that certain user, right? So this is all available in next generation SIEMs. So continuing the security configuration, the security intelligence part, the intelligence part that we were looking at. So this is how these are QRadar screenshots. So how do we do security configuration monitoring? So we find devices with risky configuration settings. I am sorry, but the screenshot is not that clear. But that's all. That's what we do. We are finding gaps before the attackers find those gaps. Right? We have a continuous. So these are marketing buzzwords. 360-degree visibility and monitoring. So in simple terms, we have a complete idea of what is happening, and it's not just information that is available right now. You can drill down deeper and deeper and find more information about what is happening, what has happened, what is happening, and what is probably going to happen, right? So we are leveraging knowledge of our network traffic and vulnerabilities. So because our Qflow engine is continuously on, we are able to see whether there are any ports open, whether any services are running on the machine, and if we are told that, okay, this service was not supposed to be running. So for example, if telnet port 22 was not supposed to be open on say an IP A.B.C.D, then I suddenly raise an offense. I say, look, my flow detector has seen that this particular port is open on this particular IP, which should not be the case. So please take a look into it, right? And when I present this offense, I also present the end user with options to actually dig down deeper, see what flows and what events led to this conclusion, right? So I'm able to do that drill down kind of stuff with this particular software, right? Slide 10. So anomaly detection. Again, I have a very flexible anomaly detection capabilities. I can identify discrepancies by rule, threshold, or deviation from normal range. What does that mean? So I'm not only going to look at current data, but QRadar has capability to look at past data and collate that information together to see whether something wrong is happening. So if you want to say that, okay, I want to look at password, if I want to look at a dictionary attack. A dictionary attack is where you provide multiple passwords and try to somehow hack into a network. So if you have somebody's Gmail account and if you try to add various passwords, so there are engines which do that. You don't do it manually. So if that happens and then you see a successful login, so I can see that whole span of time. So if this attack is happening over 6 months, I am able to look at data from all 6 months and I'm able to find out that, okay, look, this looks to be an APT and somebody has been trying to get into this account since long and now has been successful. So just take a look into this. It might be a genuine user, you never know, right? But at least I need to be told that there have been password attempts and rapid password attempts over the last 6 months. So this kind of anomaly detection, anomaly is something which is abnormal. So this kind of anomaly detection is is possible with QRadar. So for example, this red box. So I have traffic from an IP address known to be in a country that does not have a remote access right. Right? I have some countries which are very strict about their remote access rights, and suddenly if I am seeing traffic from that particular country, I am able to show that as an offense. Now, how do I know that the IP address came from a country which does not have a remote access right? Because I integrate with IBM's X-Force data feed. I am being given information about which are the typical spam sites, which are the typical malware sites, which are the typical sites which originate in a country, which are rogue sites, so on and so forth. So I get all this information. I integrate that with the information that I see on the network, and I show you whether something is wrong. Network flow analytics is, as I said, it's the best thing to detect a threat. And why? Because network traffic doesn't lie, right? So you can as a hacker, you can stop logging, or you can go into a system and erase the audit logs maybe. But you can't cut off the network. You cannot really do anything with the network, because that's where everything is flowing. So you cannot really make the network to lie. You can confuse me to some extent, in the sense I can send spoofing packets everywhere, but there is still a limit till which you can do that, right? So in QRadar, the added capability that we have put in is we can also do a layer 7 flow data. So what do you mean by layer 7? If you know the OSI layer 7 is the application layer. So I, as a product, I can detect whether there is a torrent being downloaded, or there is a data transfer happening. If somebody is using Skype, if somebody is using Google Talk, I can detect everything of this sort, because I am application aware. I have been, there is inner intelligence that has been fed into me, and that is fed every week, by the way. It's called through auto update functionality. So every week I get information as to a new application or a new kind of attack. So every week my database is updated with those. So I allow end administrators to actually dig down and look at layer 7 flow data. So it's very easy for a QRadar administrator to find out whether somebody is using Skype when they are not supposed to be using Skype, or somebody is using torrent if they are not supposed to be using torrent. Same for P2P applications, right? It helps detect anomalies that might otherwise get missed, right? As I said, you can, as a hacker, you can clear up an audit record, but as a hacker, you cannot clear up network traffic. It will still show up, right? It will, and this particular network flow analytics, they enable visibility into attacker communication, right? So I can look at the malware opening a backdoor to a certain IP in China and sending out hardware information, saying that, okay, I am alive here, I am on this IP, and this is a Windows host, and this has this particular port open. So malwares typically do that. They open backdoors for their end users. So if I can send a malware to some site, and it will allow me a backdoor. So if something like this is happening, it will, this particular network flow analytics will give us visibility into those communications. User activity monitoring. So this is very important for suspicious activity. It's typically called as internal fraud, right? So if I have an employee who is accessing an FTP site on a weekend and trying to download files and then pushes it out onto Gmail, I should be alarmed. So how do I know who is doing that? So I have ways where I can associate, where I can listen to identity and access management software like Tivoli Identity Manager or Tivoli Access Manager, and I can then correlate those events with the actual activity of the user and find out whether something wrong is happening, right? I can, as I said, you can also write rules for time of day or day of week activity. So you can say, I shouldn't see FTP activity on Saturdays and Sundays. If I'm seeing FTP activity on Saturday, Sunday, then who is the user? Who did the FTP? So this particular monitoring of user activity is provided to you by this particular software. What that means for you is you have full visibility at your fingertips as to who is doing what, right? So we have covered the intelligence part. We'll move on to the automation part. As much as intelligence is important, we believe automation is also important, because we have seen SIEMs, typical SIEM installations. If you looked at it 3 to 4 years before, their long-term projects. So if you started installing an SIEM, it would typically take you 7 to 8 months to even get started. Right? It required a huge amount of planning, it required a huge amount of effort, manpower, and the end results, as we saw for first generation SIEMs, were not that great. But with QRadar, apart from the fact that it's a next generation SIEM and has all intelligence built into it, you will see that it is a very, very easy system to deploy. Yes, it's a very easy system to deploy. I mean, we have seen vendors taking 10 days to just get started with one log source. We have QRadar set up in 3 hours and starting to detect activities on the network, right? 3 flat hours, we have seen that, right? So what all do we provide? So we see typical administration to be in three layers. So we monitor, we analyze, and we act, right? So in monitor, we have an auto discovery of log sources. We have auto discovery of applications, because in our layer 7 flow analysis, we have auto discovery of assets. So we can immediately make out what are all the machines that are available on your network, because I am listening to the network activity. So I can know each IP address. I can probably even know each MAC address on your network. We do an auto grouping of assets based on the IP. We have a centralized log management. From the analyzed perspective, we have an auto tuning inside it. This is all proprietary, patented technology. We auto detect threats. We have thousands of predefined rules, which you don't even need to write your own rules when you deploy QRadar, even without doing a single thing, with just installation and adding the log sources. You can automatically start detecting threats. Of course, there are some log sources which you have to add manually, but there are other log sources which get detected automatically, right? We have advanced security analytics because of our X-Force integration. From the ACT perspective, we have again thousands of predefined reports for various regulations like PCI, SOX, and so on. We have an asset-based prioritization of offenses. We auto-update our threat inventory. We have an auto-response, and we can also do remediation to some extent. Right? You can see the codes underneath. So the initial install of QLab system took about 20 minutes. Right? 20 minutes is nothing. And this was getting flow and event data to QRadar for processing and having the ability to review the correlated events. I bet you there are no other vendors which can do this for you. So when I look at integrated, so what does it mean? So if you look at a QRadar, typical QRadar install, you will typically see only one console, right? There is, we don't have multiple user interfaces. Our primary objective in QRadar is to keep things as simple as possible. We don't want administrators to get confused with multiple user interfaces. So all our software on the left-hand side, as you can see, all of them integrate into one single console. Right? So I have log management, I have SIEM, I have risk management. You just add a license and suddenly your QRadar SIEM will become QRadar Risk Manager, and it will start giving you predictive analytics. Right? If you add a flow collector to the QRadar install, suddenly your console will start showing you flow data. Right? And the network and application visibility, you don't need to really do anything. It will just come out of the box. Right? So we provide you with one console. So the screenshot that you can see there, that's the only thing that you will ever see for QRadar. That's the only UI that we have. Right? So that's how we are integrated. Right? This is on the left hand side, you will see a typical how SIEMs looked before, and on the right hand side you will see an integrated solution. So we call the left one a siloed solution. So there are multiple silos actually. And what we provide you as a QRadar is the clean solution that you see on the right. So what are the advantages of, or rather the disadvantages of siloed solution is there are multiple vendors. So you will get the box from one vendor, you will get the storage from someone else, you will get the flow collectors from someone else, right? And there is a disparate price list. So you really can't predict how much your SIM is going to cost you. We have disparate reporting and searching. We have filtered and selective correlation, because if my log sources are different, then I really cannot do correlation. So I have to work very hard for correlation to happen, right? There is a lot of duplication of logs. Multiple product admins and DBAs are involved, and there are serious issues with scaling, right? So what the next generation SIEM like QRadar will offer you is one integrated solution, which is highly scalable, one common reporting and searching GUI, one distributed correlation engine. So distributed correlation is let me just explain that to you. So you have one console, we call it a console. It's one single appliance, and then to that console you can keep on adding multiple event processors. So if you want to say, I have some customers who use only the console and its inbuilt log management and SIEM engine. I have customers who have 20 underlying event processors and 10 flow processors, and that kind of scale. So we can deal with very small size companies to medium sized companies to very large organizations with multiple data centers. And it's the same software. There is no difference in the software, right? Logs are stored only once, and we have a very easy way to back up those logs in case you need it for any day for forensic analysis. You can just take a backup. The backup is not very complicated. You just take a backup of a directory and that's it. I have never seen backups that simple, right? The deployment is pretty simple. We give you a total visibility as I showed you before, and we have a distributed source storage, so you can actually attach our appliance to a SAN storage, multiple terabytes and petabytes, and we'll just keep on storing our information over there, right? And add to the fact that because we have multiple event processors and flow processors, each of them have their own storage, so you might not even need a SAN. So if you add multiple event processors, automatically they come in with built-in storage. We'll look at two cases where we think we are better than a typical first generation SIEM. So this is a complex threat detection scenario, as you can see, right? We have a convergence of network, event, and vulnerability data. What do you mean by that? So if you look at the screens here, we are looking at multiple sources of information. Our offense has been generated here, which the description says that a target vulnerable to detected exploit, right? And we have seen multiple layers of attacks. So we saw a recon by somebody, then we saw that there are some malware events, and then we saw that there is an exploit preceded by a recon, and then we said, okay, now we are seeing an offense. We are seeing something wrong happening here. And then we went in, we saw that there was a network scan that was detected by Qflow. There was a buffer overflow detected by Snort. Snort, by the way, is a Windows engine which will detect events. So it has detected a buffer overflow. And then we have a Nessus scanner which has detected that there is a vulnerable host available. We have mixed all this information together, and we have reached a conclusion that, okay, something wrong is happening here. And we did not have to write anything for it. This particular thing happened out of the box, right? So how did this happen? So Nessus is the first piece. Nessus is a scanner, so it's a vulnerability scanner. Security administrators on the call would know. It detects vulnerabilities on machines, right? It had initially told QRadar, we import Nessus results. So it had told QRadar, like, look, there is this Windows server which I think there is some vulnerability here, right? So you can see what it exactly said. There is a huge description there. right? And after that, we have been told by Snort that okay, there is a buffer flow, and at the same time, we have been told by Qflow collector that there is a network scan, and we have mixed all this information together, and we have raised an offense. Cool, isn't it? Right? I'll let you guys to look at the screen. It's a very complicated screen, unfortunately. I wish I could have shown you the QRadar event live, but looks not possible now, right? So, fraud and data loss prevention. Another scenario where you would typically use a next generation SIEM. We have found out that organizations are very vulnerable to insider threats, right? We tend to dismiss it. We used to dismiss it, but unfortunately they have realized that right now that it's very important to guard an organization from insider threats. It might be one bad employee, but if he has an access which he shouldn't have, then we end up in a situation which is being shown right here. So what happened? So an internal user named Scott came in, right? And what did he do? He did he checked the Oracle DB audit. He did something with it, and then he uploaded it to Google, right? And we detected it as a Gmail, right? So was this possible before with a first generation SIEM? No. Why? Because we did not have this kind of visibility. We were not integrated with identity access management systems. We were not integrated, we did not have this kind of IP awareness, right? We did not know that, okay, if I look at this IP, who is this IP? Where is this file being uploaded to, right? And in fact, we did not have enough coverage at the WAT layer also, right? So right now we are able to detect Oracle data, but in first generation SIMs, because of the lack of connectors, we could not see all data sources. We were limited to a very fixed set of data sources, but now we have added innumerable number of data sources, from very large scale famous applications to very small scale less famous applications, and the list keeps on adding. So we keep on adding newer and newer data sources every now and then. So even this coverage was absent in a first generation SIEM. Right. So I hope this session has been useful to you. I do understand that much of this is very complex to understand. I hope this webinar is recorded for you to go back to it again and listen to it at your own pace. So the conclusion of this is that the first generation SIEMs, I believe they will be eventually outdated, and they will eventually lead to next generation SIEMs. And next generation SIEMs, with their intelligence, automation, and integrated nature, will allow us to look at advanced persistent threats and deal with them in a timely manner before there is any loss. Thank you so much. I give it over to Mohini.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Darshan, for the insightful presentation. Let's quickly take up the questions now. I have assigned some of the questions to you. Please read them out and answer them so that our users may listen to your commendable insights.
Right, I see two questions here already. So I will start with Saurabh, right? Or rather, let me start with Santosh Kumar. So he asked how SIM will support for large vulnerability data in terms of percentage. I'm not sure whether I understood your question in the correct way, but what we are talking about is we can actually import data from all major vulnerability scanners, right? Eventually, that particular data will help us to find out whether a certain IP is vulnerable. And SIM will not support it. It's actually the other way around. The vulnerability data will support SIEM, right? So we reuse that information, right? I hope that answers your question. Moini, should I move on to the next question?
Sure.
Okay. So, sir, can you explain QRadar? Asked by Saurabh. Saurabh, you've asked a very broad question. QRadar, as I mentioned, is SIEM. It's the next generation SIEM. That's what I was told. Right. So we all the points that we covered for next generation SIEMs, we cover it under QRadar. So QRadar was a Q1 Labs product, an SIEM product. We are now part of IBM. From January 1st, we will be completely part of IBM. Okay, so Rahul Gujral asks me, is it good to use antivirus of trial version? Well, yeah, if it's not good from security perspective, it's good from money perspective. So the antivirus of trial version will have very limited capabilities. So I believe it's your choice, right? Naveen Kumar asks me, how is the pricing for QRadar done and what is the license policy of QRadar? So, okay, that's a good question. So, we typically sell licenses based on the events per second or the flow per minute capability. So, if you are having a lot of events, I don't have the numbers right now, but it is typically based on the number of events. So, in very large installations, we'll sell a license of say 2000 EPS. EPS is events per second. So we base our pricing on that. And the license policy, as I said, is you can buy a basic license of Log Manager, and then as and how your organization's needs increase, you can buy the SIEM license. If you want predictive analytics, you can buy the Risk Manager, and so on and so forth. There are separate licenses for Qflow and vFlow products. They are sold separately, right? Okay, so can we, I have Abhishek Tripathi asking me, can we use QRadar for security testing of an application? It seems that this tool can be used to make network more secure and gives features to monitor it closely. Abhishek, you cannot directly use this to, cannot directly use this. It's not the utility of that product we use as a security testing application, but I say if you are doing penetration testing, you can use it with QRadar to give you more insights, because QRadar will automatically detect whether some software, some machine has become vulnerable. So if you are doing penetration testing or if you are doing vulnerability testing, yes, you can use QRadar with it. So it will tell you whether something wrong is happening. That's a very good use case, by the way. I'm glad you asked that question. Vivek asks me, can we hack others' IP addresses and use them? No, Vivek. I don't think you can hack others' IP addresses unless you belong to some hacking group, right? So we cannot hack others' IP addresses just like that. There are tools available in the market. I would suggest you to read books. I think there is some book on ethical hacking, which you would want to read for your basics, right? Mallikarjuna asks me, can you elaborate about QRadar and entity management system? So, Mallikarjuna, I think we, as I mentioned, we integrate with multiple entity management systems. I think we are just starting with that. Internally, QRadar stores entities with associated with multiple IPs. So it will say that, okay, this particular user is okay to be using this particular IP. But apart from that, or from a very broader perspective, you can integrate QRadar with other identity management systems. I think we are just integrated. We have just integrated with Julia Entity Manager. I'm not sure whether we are integrated with Oracle or other entity management in the market, but that will give you more information. So if you know from your entity management system that certain user has been given read permissions on these databases but is trying to get hold of write permissions, then there is something wrong. So the QRadar software will tell you about that. Right? I hope that answers your question. Rahul asks me how the next generation SIM used to detect threats as antivirus can't detect them. As I said, because we provide flow and entity information and other stuff that we saw in the presentation, which a typical antivirus will never do for you. See, antiviruses are based on signatures. They will tell you that they were okay when we were not facing advanced persistent threats. So I wouldn't expect single users like you and me having QRadar on our laptops, right? But their antivirus and anti-malware systems are okay. But if we are talking about an organization, so we cannot just sit back with signature-based systems, right? We have to have a step further because it's a lot is at stake. A lot of money is at stake. A lot of people are at stake. So we believe antivirus is not good in such scenarios. Are there other, so Santosh Kumar asked me, are there other products apart from QRadar for SIEM? Yes, HP ArcSight, I think, and there is another product from McAfee. I don't remember the name right now, but if you Google for SIEMs, you can get a Wikipedia entry which will list all major SIEM products. How useful is QRadar to maintain data centers? Asked by Riazuddin Khaja. How useful is QRadar to maintain data centers? From a purely maintenance perspective, zero. From a security perspective, very important, right? I mean, the data center is the heart of any modern organization, right? So QRadar to maintain the security of the data center, yes, we are immensely useful. Will QRadar support for large networks? It will depend on your license and amount of integration that you have with networks. So I believe when you say large network, I am assuming that you have multiple switches and routers, right? And if you want to listen to all of them through our Q-Flow connectors, you need to have that kind of license, right? So if you have a lot of licenses, yes, of course, we will support large networks. How are events shown in QRadar? No, sorry. There is another question from Saurabh Kumar Tiwari. Sir, can we trace MAC address? Yes, I think you can trace a MAC address. I am not sure about that. But if we can at least do a who is lookup. So I'm not sure a who is lookup whether it will give me a MAC address or not. But a who is lookup definitely goes on to who is owning that IP. I'm not sure whether it will show you the MAC address or not. All right. Santosh Kumar, how the events are shown in QRadar, either historical or any live events? We can see both. You can see historical events, you can see live events. You can have a retention policy which says I want to store events, live events in the sense that I mean which won't require a backup restore. You can save. We have seen customers saving events for 6 months, 3 months. It depends on what kind of organization you are and what kind of historical events you want to show. Right, live events, you can see streaming live events coming right into QRadar. You can filter them based on where they are coming from, and you can filter them based on what is there in the payload. Our search engine is very powerful. Our search and filtering engine is very powerful. So you can do all of that. There are no further questions. If you have any further questions, can you please push them onto the questions tab? Okay, all right. Any alert mechanism that is supported by QRadar, we allow you to send emails and SNMP traps, which we feel are very adequate. So we will, whenever there is an offense that is generated, we will automatically send an alert either in as a mail, or if you want it faster, then we can send an SNMP trap. Typically, sometimes customers send out an SNMP trap to their firewalls or to other softwares or ticketing softwares, or sometimes they send SNMP traps to pagers so that the administrators are, they are informed immediately. Okay, so many questions. QRadar can be integrated with DLP tools. It can take the logs of DLP tool and raise an alert. I'm not sure, Rahul Jasuja asked me this question. I'm not sure, Rahul, whether what a DLP tool is. Sorry. But yes, if you find it in the, there are multiple tools that we support. I am not sure whether your tool, particularly your DLP tool, will be included in that list or not. But we also allow tool vendors to write custom connectors, so you can theoretically you can integrate any tool into QRadar, right? Any tool that generates logs and events, you can push them to QRadar, right? I hope that answers your question. Vidya asks me, when downloading or viewing websites, some virus file was updated. Can we avoid that? Vidya, if you're looking from a very individual perspective, I think this is the wrong forum to ask this, but yes, antiviruses can typically help you with this particular problem. An SIEM will be an overkill in this scenario. Right? Santosh asked me, okay, it's done. Rahul asked me, even though all the organizations are using these products, so why hacking is going more? As we see till October, more than 14,000 websites got hacked. Rahul, I hope your question is heard by those people who got hacked, because if they had QRadar, there was a lesser chance that they would be hacked. So I hope they see your question and they listen to my answers. Right? Please list the limitations of QRadar in terms of security intelligence. There are always things that we are trying to build up. There is a huge list of feature requests that we have. So I cannot say there is a limitation. Because we are in the Gartner Leaders Quadrant, I believe we are much ahead of the crowd. But limitations, there are multiple feature requests and there are multiple releases lined up. So there are going to be multiple limitations. So we are having 2 releases. I think we have 1 major release coming up next year. So there are limitations that we are dealing with. But the only thing that you can do as a software vendor is stay ahead of the crowd. We are doing a good job of that. So does it have feature? I think I answered that question from Mallikarjuna. Does it have feature of alerting admins? Yes, we do. Right. So Riyazuddin asked me, how different is QRadar SIEM different from other available SIEMs in the market? We are the only next generation SIEM available. We are the only people who have flow information. We are the only people who integrate with IBM Exports, and we are the only people who can bring us all together for you in one console. Right. Saurabh asks me, what is QRadar Log Manager? QRadar Log Manager is our initial product. It's a very small product and it has very limited capability. But it's okay for smaller organizations who just want to get a fair idea of what's happening. But we typically are seeing customers moving away from Log Manager and getting themselves a SIEM license. Right? Any other questions?
Well, that was all, Mr. Darshan, that we have.
I think no more questions.
Yeah, well, that was all we had from our attendees, Mr. Darshan, today. It was indeed a great session. I would like to thank you for conducting this webinar. I would also like to thank all our participants for the support in making this webinar a success. The recording of this session would be available on techig.com by tomorrow. Thank you all. Have a great evening.
You too. Thank you.